Welcome to the first ever episode of The Brass Junkies, a brand new podcast from the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network featuring interviews with the world's greatest brass players, hosted by two thoroughly average ones, Lance LaDuke and myself, Andrew Hitz. We are honored to be joined today by Ryan Anthony, former trumpet player with the Canadian Brass, current principal trumpet of the Dallas Symphony, cancer survivor, and all-around amazing and inspiring human being. The guy has even soloed next to Shamu. He's done it all, and he tells us all about it next. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Brass Junkies. I am Andrew Hitz, one of your co-hosts, along with Lance LaDuke. How are you doing this morning, Lance?
I'm feeling sprightly.
Sadly, I'm sure that's true. Okay, we are joined today. Well, first of all, we're joined by one of our producers from Fredericksburg Brass, Hank Attaway. How are you, Hank?
I'm doing great, Andrew.
You're not sprightly?
No.
No. He is not sprightly.
Not sprightly.
Yeah, not sprightly.
To keep track at home, Henry Attaway, not sprightly.
So we are joined today by one of the best trumpet players in the world, as they all are, of course. But this one actually fits the bill. This is Ryan Anthony. Can you say hello, Ryan?
I certainly can say that. Hello, everybody.
Well done.
Well done.
I'm not sure if this is the real, if you're really actually with that opening. I mean, that was, we all think we're one of the best, but I don't know about
yeah, that's the first time a trumpet player
incriminate
took direction
myself.
ever.
I was about to
Yeah.
say, no, this is great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Ryan is a little disarming because he's a trumpet player that actually has self-awareness, which is kind of it's unsettling to speak to him because he kind of seems to know his place in the world, which is very disorienting. So.
Well, being surrounded by a bunch of low brass players is pretty easy to find my place.
Yeah, there you go. A lot of directions I could go with that, but we're trying to keep this family friendly. So, so why don't you tell us what you're up to musically today, and then we'll kind of get into your past, which we might actually mention the ensembles that you have not performed or soloed with, because it might be a shorter list than those that you have. It's pretty incredible. But what are you up to today?
Well, actually, right now, most of my time is working on an event that's coming up in about 2 weeks called Cancer Blows. I've been working on the last year or two. But then when I can, I'm still doing the full-time principal work at Dallas Symphony Orchestra and got a solo gig next weekend down in Alabama. Had one last week out in Phoenix. And just finished Home Laban last night. And got a big pop show coming up this weekend and then this major event in 2 weeks. So I'm doing that. Just trying to enjoy some time off.
That's pretty funny right there. How long have you been the principal trumpet of the Dallas Symphony?
About 9 years now. I first came in as an interim while they were trying to find the permanent player. And I really wasn't thinking I would be that permanent. I would just come in and do it for a little bit, and I loved it. Fell in love with the guys here in the section and all my colleagues. And then once they couldn't find anybody, I guess they finally looked at me and realized, well, maybe we'll just keep this guy. So it all worked out really well, and so I've been here about 9 years playing the book.
That's pretty great. So you've had what's the difference in mindset between you do a lot of soloing and then you did the Canadian Brass thing and Brass Band of Battle Creek and those sorts of poppier things, and you talked about doing pop stuff, and now you're sitting in a section. Any kind of difference in how you go about those three challenges?
You know, surprisingly more so than I would have thought. I mean, I certainly think everything is chamber music. I try to go back to that. I mean, that's my go-to. That's my comfort zone. That's what I've always done, what I started doing, playing in smaller brass ensembles and quintets. And so I try to keep as much of that as possible as far as being principal, leading the section is no different from leading a quintet. I mean, I try to make everything clear enough that they know exactly when to come in, what style, what are we doing. So when, I mean, that's sort of the go-to always. It's some type of form of chamber music, whether it's 2 trumpets or 4 or a larger brass ensemble. It's everybody depending on exactly what I'm playing with in the orchestra. The hardest part is just the technique. I mean, to be honest, I find playing the orchestra by far the hardest thing for me to do as a player. And I would have thought that'd be completely opposite. So that was a big surprise. And I think just because when you're soloing, you know, let's face it, you got a little bit of leeway here and there if you want to do some stuff, and when you're the soloist. So whatever is right, you just call it, you know, you just call it interpretation, whether you missed it or not. and then with the quintet, you know, you miss a note, it's okay because you have several thousands to go later on in the concert. So I never focused much on the little small things with soloing and chamber music. It's more of the rapport with the audience and getting the basic idea of the emotion of the music across. But in the orchestra, suddenly there's a magnifying glass put on the small details, and you got to be doing it night after night. The wonderful thing I love traveling and soloing, especially, you know, you have a bad night, you're on a plane the next day, so you're out of there. So you got a free shot the next morning to start all over. Whereas here in the band, everyone's looking at you like, man, I hope it's better than it was last night. So
I appreciate you trying really hard last night, Ryan. Yeah.
But you know, it's all different challenges, and I think that's what I love the most. And when I have long bouts without doing any solo stuff or chamber ensemble work, I do find it drastically affects my orchestral playing, both physically and mentally. I mean, it's just as much as I love it and I love those challenges, it's still getting in front of the audience that ultimately is sort of my B12 shot that just keeps me going and keeps pushing me. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of persons what they're most comfortable with. And ironically, I'd rather be closer to the audience than sitting in the back.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
So how much of that do you get to do then in your year? I mean, what's the balance between sitting in the back and sitting in the front?
You know, not as much as I would like, but then again, I'm not sure I could fit anything more in it either, as far as in my schedule. But it all varies. I mean, the hardest thing for doing solo stuff is you got to say no more than you can say yes, but they give you a date and you got to base it around the orchestra schedule. And you know, we are a full-time orchestra, so we've got concerts every week, so you have to be selective. And sometimes you know, I can do one a month where I'm out on the road. I try to leave once a month to do some type of other event, and if that works, that's great. And but sometimes that just doesn't work that way. You can go months in between, so it really kind of varies. Or like this month, where it seems to be everything was slammed all together, and I had 3 solo stuff within about a month and a half. And that's rare. But as long as it's the same thing that I'm doing, I can do it. It's when I have to prepare different shows at the same time that never works very well.
Does that orchestra have a summer home?
No, we don't. We go to Vail, Colorado. We have a residency there, so that doesn't suck. But we don't have a summer home. We just play here in Dallas.
Gotcha.
Dallas is lovely in the summertime, right?
It is. Luckily, our outdoor events are getting smaller every summer. So, but yeah, we just play in the Myers Center, do various different concerts. But our biggest thing is in Vail, Colorado.
My first ever trip to Dallas was to see the band Fish, which I have a real problem with. That was many years ago, and it was in July. The concert was at Starplex, and I went, and it was 102 degrees when the concert started at 7:30 p.m. and a little humid. Yeah, you could chew the air.
Change.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So reading your bio is dizzying. You've appeared as the principal trumpet of the L.A. Phil, of Cincinnati, of St. Louis, of Colorado. You've played in the sections of the New York Phil, of Cleveland, of the Israel Philharmonic. Are there any gigs? I'm sure all of them on some level, but are there any gigs with other orchestras that particularly stand out to you?
Last year I went and played principal in San Diego at the symphony there. Not only being my hometown was it great, but then we also took it to Carnegie. But there's something about that one just recently that stood out because as a kid, you always look at your hometown orchestra as someday I wish I could play with them, but that's the absolute, the greatest ensemble in the world. And so that was kind of fun to actually go back and live out some of those childhood dreams. And then anytime you play in Carnegie, of course, is great. So that was a fun principal experience. I think for several years I was sort of that trumpet player, their principal trumpet band-aid. Anytime they needed help or something, they would just call and I would go in. I'd play the week or two, patch them up, and then I'd leave. So that was sort of my gig for a few years. It seemed to be, which was great, because you only come in to play the big tunes. And so I never had to, count any 100 and some measures in a Beethoven or Mozart. I just came in, played all the big trumpet licks, and then left them. So that's where I was able to build some of that the resume. And but it was fun, and it's also lots of experience. And same thing with playing in the section. After I left Canadian Brass, I had time on my hands, and if they needed an extra part for some big piece, then I'd go in there and patch them up for the week and then head out to the next gig.
So you do realize that you were just complaining about counting 100 measures of rest in an orchestral piece to two low brass players, right?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, oh man, 100 measures. How did you keep it all straight? That's crazy.
Well, I don't. That's why we have more than one trumpet player in the section, so somebody can keep count.
Hey, new guy.
Hey, new guy.
Yeah, exactly.
How's your counting?
Take your shoes and socks off. You're going to be busy.
What's confusing is when they don't tell you if they're using their thumb or their first finger for one, because you never know, then what it is when you lean over and you see the fingers counting.
Your job is hard, man. I never realized.
Yeah.
So, tell us about this prize that you won when you were 16 years old that helped lead you to solo with an unbelievable number of orchestras.
Well, I started off. I forget who originally had told me, and they said, "Oh, it's just it's too bad it's now because you're too young to be able to do it." And I'm sure that's just what pissed me off enough to think, "Okay, now I'm going to do it." And it was every year they did violin and piano, and they rotated to third instrument. And so for 1 year, they happened to do trumpet. And I was a sophomore, I think, when it was advertised. And so basically everybody can send in tapes, and then they select the top tapes. And so I was able to make that, and I thought, well, that's great. And then we spent a week. It was actually in Ann Arbor that year. And you compete like every 3 days. They keep whittling it down. And so I'm told from others who didn't advance as far as me that it was a really fun week because they had lots of stuff to do. Of course, I wouldn't know because I was competing the whole entire time. So I keep bringing that up. But and so we just kept going, and they award a winner of each instrument. And so I had won the prize for trumpet. And then they do the three winners all play together in a public concert, and if the entire panel of judges agree, they will award a grand prize winner. And this competition was by 17 Magazine and General Motors, and they, at that time, I think they had only awarded one grand prize winner ever, and that was Joshua Bell. And so no one really expected to win it, and that was the big stunning move, is when a trumpet player was awarded this prize. And I played Houchin, so I started off with two half notes, and the violin and piano, they were playing a million notes even before I got to the third beat. So nobody ever thought a trumpet player would actually win. But, so that was, I think, the big sort of head-turning moment, not just for me, but just I even think for the instrument, that we can actually compete. And a musical phrase is still a musical phrase. And if you can make it nice and you can make a difference to the audience, it doesn't matter if it's a basic E-flat scale on Haydn or a million notes in Mendelssohn violin concerto. So that was sort of the big breaking moment. And one of the grand prize was soloing with Cleveland Orchestra. So I did that my next year in high school, and then it sort of went from there. It became a nice ride.
I see. So what was the name of the competition?
It was 17 Magazine General Motors National Concerto Competition.
There you go.
I don't believe they is still in existence, but yeah, it was big at the time.
So did you get like a centerfold in 17 Magazine as well, or?
You know, I did. I was really ashamed. It only came out in black and white.
That's too bad. Well, and the placement of those staples is harsh sometimes.
Yeah, you know, I had to be very careful with that. No, I was in there all simply faced and 17 or 16, whatever I was in there. But yeah, there was a small picture in there. So for a while, I got liked the Taylor when I was in 17 Magazine.
Pretty good. Hey, girls,
Yeah.
I was in a magazine. You might recognize me.
Did you see it? Back page in the far bottom in small print.
Right next to Andy Gibb.
How?
May have been Sean Cassidy at that point.
Yeah, there you go.
Screaming.
How old were you when you started your playing the trumpet?
I think I was 7. I was pretty young. I started off on violin, and I was just horrible. But that was my mother's wish, and we can blame her for that.
Mom.
And my brother, who's older than I, he immediately refused and went straight to a brass instrument. But then I felt bad for my parents, so I thought, well, I'll at least try. And it was not a pretty sight. It was sort of strangling a cat every day. So, but my grandfather played cornet, and I absolutely loved it. And I would just sit in the hallway as a kid and just listen to him practice. He was self-taught. But my uncle also played trumpet, and my great aunt played cornet, and I knew my dad played a little bit. So finally, when I was 7, I told him I don't want to play violin anymore. I want to play trumpet like Grandpa. And he went out to the garage, and he was a music educator, so he had an instrument of every kind. And he took out the instrument, opened the valves, gave me my first lesson right there in the living room, and he was my first teacher. And I remember hearing my mother crying in the bedroom all night. But I think the sounds after about 2 days were better on the trumpet than my scratching on the violin. So she got over it.
What was your mom's attraction to the violin? Why was she so set on getting
She was
somebody
a
to play?
cellist. She played cello, and my dad's main instrument was violin, even though he's made his career being a band director. And I think they always wanted to have a string quartet, so they tried to get my brother, and he immediately just, I think, pushed it away and then picked up the French horn. And I still think just because it was the only brass instrument he didn't have to hold. You know, you can just sit in his lap. So I think that was ultimately his way of starting with that. And then, so I guess they thought, well, we'll have a string trio, and they tried with me, but that was not successful.
So you crushed their dreams, man.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I did, yeah.
Ryan
Yeah, I got
Anthony,
it over
dream
with at a
crusher.
pretty young age.
Yeah, yeah. Most of us waited until much later to devastate our parents.
Yeah,
You just-
exactly. I didn't wait to teenage years to give her a hard time. I just did it all right at the beginning.
you were advanced in every way possible. That's impressive.
Wow.
So tell us about your experience in Canadian brass. How long were you a member of that quintet?
You know, that's kind of blurred. Not because
Tell
of
me.
the travel schedule, or yeah. But I joined them full time in 2000, and I think I went into 4 seasons with them full time. But then I kept playing with them every year after that. I would keep doing summer tours, and then they put together what they called the Dream Team. There's about 4 of us that we pieced together all their tours alone. So, and I was still doing that when I started coming here to Dallas a little bit. And so, I don't know, I think I played with them up until, I don't know, 6-7 years. I was still doing something with them.
Wow. And who were the other members of the Dream Team?
Let's see, Joe Burkstall, Ronnie Rahm, myself, boy, you have to give me another cup of coffee. Brandon Ridnour was just starting. He was coming on. He was there. I think that was basically us here in the States that we sort of would all put it together, which was great, except for, I replaced Ronnie Rahm. And
Right.
after his 30 years or amazing run with Canadian Brass, and so I was his replacement, which was big shoes to fill, literally. But when the first time we played together, we realized we knew the same parts. Kicking into stuff. We'd always do the big opening and just a closer walk with me, and we looked at each other. Well, who says the line at the end with the cowbell? Because we both did. Nobody knew the other part. So those were always kind of nice, fun evenings of, oh boy, did anybody think about learning Freddie's part? But it was fun. And those were some of my most memorable, because I mean he was the guy as a kid I would try to emulate when we would play all the Canadian brass charts, and then to be on stage with him and then be considered a colleague is always, that was something special.
I'm first trumpet. No, I'm first trumpet. No, I'm first trumpet.
Yeah.
So how did?
Well, him was like, yeah.
Structurally, how did the dream team work? So you would get a call, I want you to play first, or did you alternate? I mean, did you always play the same book, or you would have played either book?
No, we played kind of either books. For the most part, you played what you knew, and that was the thing. They put this group together because we had all played with them for so many years, and depending on what the tour was, we already knew the book. And I think that's kind of how it sort of it happened. They would call us because they would need something on a tour, and they knew we knew the book, and we would have the time. And then I think with the presenters, it just got easier to say, when they'd be like, well, who's going to be your trumpet player? Just say, well, we've got the dream team, so you don't worry, it'll be somebody. So I think that's really where the terminology came from, and the reason behind it. But no, we all knew the same books. The same parts that would work together. Rarely did Ronnie and I play on the same show, but so we just kind of you knew it, and you'd get in there, and when you do 150 shows a year, it's hard to forget your part.
Try as you might.
Kind of lingers for years.
It is possible.
So it seemed like those
possible.
guys, that band seemed during that period. It was kind of unclear where it was going to go. It seems like now it's locked into these five guys, and they're a lot busier than they were.
Yeah.
Did you have a sense of? I'm not asking you to talk out of school. I just mean, it seemed like for a while they were all that in a bag of chips, and then it seemed like they were wandering as the guys were starting to retire, and now it seems like they've kind of righted the ship and have a clear
so.
mission again.
I mean, I'd like to think the sort of second generation of the group, there wasn't a whole lot of changes when I was with them. And each of us were the first sub of sort of, the originals. And it was very clear what our role was, just sort of passing the baton. And there wasn't any change of the touring schedules or the times, and the turnovers were very slow. So, when I was with them, I think we were just still, doing going full steam ahead, and I didn't see any dip of time on the road. I think when I left, we were still doing about 280 days on the road. I mean, it was still full time, and there was nothing else you were able to do on the side.
That's not full time. That's insane.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, it was a bit much. And I got to tell you, I absolutely loved it, and still to this day I miss it. Except for once my daughter got old enough to sort of grab my leg and cry, "Daddy, don't go," as I'd be heading out the door with my suitcase. That was when things started changing. And at some point, you just have to make a decision what ultimately is your legacy to be. And
Sure.
I had to make a decision that wasn't just based on career. I wanted to be a husband and father, and that's what I wanted people to be able to remember. And so that was the only reason why I remotely thought about leaving the group, because I really did. I loved it. I loved the audience, loved working with the guys, loved the shows that we did, what it stood for. I mean, that was my ultimate dream. In fact, when they had asked me to come and replace Ronnie, I just got married, and I told my wife, wow, that's my childhood dream, but I won't accept it. And she said, yes, you will. In fact, she drove me there because she knew she didn't want to live with me. If I ever thought, I wonder what if. So she'd rather live with me away than live with me at home, being, all bummed I never had my childhood dream. So
Smart.
It was one of those you just had to check out, and you had to do, and it was everything I wanted it to be. I really did love it.
Sure.
So are there any Canadian brass gigs with that many? I'm sure there's a few, but are there any in particular that kind of jump out at you as being special to you?
There's there's several. Near the beginning, I mean, there was a lot of, we hit the ground running real quickly, and we had some huge concerts right up front, and just that first shock and that awe of walking into a major place. And in fact, they still would have Ronnie's picture on the program, and that was always tough because everybody knows Ronnie. And here comes this kid walking out, and they're looking like, who is this guy? But it was never the pressure of I thought I had to prove myself. There's something about that group that audience automatically assumed, well, if you're in it, you must be okay. So, perform and give us a good time. And but yeah, just that sheer excitement. And I mean, we had a couple big concerts in Europe and in Asia that were on TV and live. And I mean, I was just barely in a group, and I just remember thinking, wow, this is it. And so there's several little things like that and here and there. And in London, playing and doing Penny Lane with a room full of everybody there that was actually knew it and was on the original gig. And
wow.
doing, so just I can go on and on. It's a whole other podcast of just great memories, and a lot of them too are things behind the stage of us having fun and traveling, getting to see the world. And after 9/11, actually, we had some amazing tours. We would have thought that we would have canceled. We canceled some right afterwards, but then we actually got really busy, and it was amazing to see how much the not only just this country but the world wanted music. And so we actually started playing a ton, and we changed our program. We put in Horn Smoke, we put in some fun stuff to get people sort of mind off of everything going on in the news, and yet we would still do the Barbara Adagio in honor of everybody. And it was amazing to see the power of music and what it could do, and how full all the halls were, people wanting to have music as their outlet. And I will never forget those months immediately following 9/11. And we did a 10-country tour in Europe after that, and people just pouring out to want that escape. And that was a big eye-opening thing for me to realize really how strong music is, and how much society needs it.
Wow, powerful stuff. So, speaking of Canadian brass, another former member of Canadian brass, Jens Lindemann, who I believe you consider a friend, correct?
Yes, especially right now. I heard he's having some job problems, so I'm trying to reach out to him.
Yeah,
it really is a shame. What did you want to give him a message at all about maybe getting through that?
Well, Jens, we've all been there, and you can't get through it. Rely on your friends and just stay positive, and you will get through it. Ignore the reviews and what people say in front of you, and just we're all behind you. We're with you.
It's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, we would like to let.
Look, he's crying. Did you hear Ryan crying over there? It's a shame. He's just torn up.
We have actually started a website that is prayforjens.org, so that we can all kind of get together as a community to kind of help him through this very challenging time.
Well, and I will say being on the road, I always tell everybody, working on the road with somebody, it's 1 year is like dog years. I mean, you live on the road that long, when 1 year, somebody as if it's 7 years. It's just everything's magnified. So the time that Jens and I spent, I guess on the calendar is really not that long, but I feel like we've been through everything and wars together and celebrations, and it's as if we were living together for years and years and years, just because of what you go through. But there are so many nights I think he did teach me. I will say I'll give him actually a positive shout out there, where when the lights come on, that guy he knew how to turn it on, and it was always fun. And I will say, I don't know how it worked, but one of us always had a rough night. The other one was always there. Most of the time, it had to be me to step up. But
Jens is like some Grand Duke Knight of Canada, the Order of whatever. But you were in 17 magazine, man. I mean, I think that trumps.
Right. I was, and if you really want to get Jens, more than that, I performed with Shamu, and that is something he will never be able to do or say. And so, yes, I will hold that over. I was in 17 magazine, and I stood next to actually knelt next to Shamu and on TV. So
Knelt next to Shamu.
Sure, he
You're
has a
saying
medal
that
and all
your
those
nickname
awards
for
and all
Jens
that.
was Shamu? That you played next to Shamu?
Prayforshamu.org.
Oh,
Speaking of,
brings the notion of a blowhole to a
Yeah.
whole new.
Speaking of turning on,
Okay, you caught me.
turning it on when the lights go on. There was 1 year when we were doing a Kenton big band gig at Christmas time with Boston Brass. We were somewhere in Michigan, and the encore was Motown Jingle Bells, and Jens decided that he wanted to introduce that piece on the mic. And before the show, he kind of seemed to make a big deal about making sure that there was a wireless microphone, which I think you play enough shows in a year, you stop paying attention to things that you don't need to pay attention to. But in hindsight, we probably should have been worried. When Jens is requesting amplification that's mobile, you kind of like, wait, where is this going? And so he then started to introduce Motown Jingle Bells, and he started with in his usual Jens voice, and within about 20 seconds, he was a full-blown evangelical preacher who was screaming about Motown and about the Motown greats and about feeling the power of being so close to Detroit. And he then started sprinting up and down the aisles of this packed concert hall, screaming about getting a witness. And the place was just like, it was exploding. I mean, this was like an Aerosmith concert at Boston Garden in like the late 70s. Like, it was just old people throwing their canes, and it was pretty crazy. And it went on for about 10 minutes, which is a little too long for an intro for an encore, and yet the place was just eating it up. So yeah, you never know what you're going to get when you hand that guy a microphone.
Was that the night that he was going to do the splits and took out a music stand?
Oh yeah,
that's one of my favorites.
He would. That was our Christmas runs. He would do that at the end of Frosty every night.
Yeah,
and that was always a personal highlight for me. And you had to clear the whole stage because you didn't know what was going to happen. But yeah, I can picture that what you're talking about. In fact, I remember. It could have been that exact gig when you guys were doing the Stan Kenton stuff, because I remember Jens calling me, telling me how great it was, and that everyone, every player who's anybody was there playing, although he was calling me because I was not. So, yes, I remember those tours very well for not being on it. Thank you very much.
Hey, man. We booked the low brass.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We figured that you were busy with Shamu, or with a teen magazine photo shoot or something. That's why we didn't call.
Yeah,
I know you're used to playing with a whale, but you want to come play with my quintet? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. So, all right. So now on, this will be the most awkward segue in the history of podcasts, to go from joking about Jens being a jackass on the mic to a very serious turn that your life took a couple of years ago, which is going to lead into a discussion about this wonderful event that you're putting on in a couple of weeks, and the foundation that you've started. So can you tell us a little bit about what happened to you a couple of years ago?
Well, actually, ironically, it was the big concert. Canadian Brass was here playing with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, and they had asked if I would play with them to do a sort of a cameo appearance. And I was starting to have some issues before that with some aches and pains, and that was really the night that stays in my memory of where it was really sort of hitting the fan as far as my physical being and pain of playing and trying to stand there and smile and act as if everything's okay, but really inside my head wondering what is going on. And it was sure enough the next day that I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is an incurable, considered terminal cancer of the blood and bone marrow. And so that was what all the pain was coming from, was from all the trumpet playing. And I'm even told that helped diagnose it even quicker. I was doing a lot of that piccolo trumpet playing and that pressure that's put on our body that was causing my ribs and my back. And so when they had found out, it was pretty advanced at the time. And so that obviously, when you hear that news, it changes everything. perspective on life, and all that immediately takes a turn. So we also put everything involved in what do we need to do to move to the next step. So it started that day on treatments. I had a stem cell transplant, or bone marrow transplant, but now they're able to do everything straight through the blood, so we don't have to be going into the bone marrow, so we can do just all the stem cells. They put in actually into my jugular, my neck down to my heart, and that's where everything went in and out of for the chemo and transplant. And so we started on that path, and really didn't spend any time thinking about career at that point, just by getting better and figuring out how to extend life and getting through this. At the time, my wife and I, we still had 2 children in elementary school. So, that's really becomes much more important than anything else, is figuring out how you're going to get through it. And at that point, earlier I said, you have to make a decision. What do you want your legacy to be? And that will certainly make you start thinking about it. So once I got through the transplant and realized, okay, I'm going to be okay for a bit, I was trying to figure out then, what do you want to do? What's your new stage and platform? And it was the week before my transplant. Actually, Jens came in to visit me. So once again, Jens' name comes into the equation. And we were talking about everything, and he was, sort of building up my hopes that, we're going to get through this, we're going to do it. And there was a phone call with Doc Severinsen, and again, sort of just giving me some last-minute support. And he had asked if there's anything that can be done, and I said yes. When I get through this transplant, I would love to share the stage with you one more time. And I had a chance to do a concert with him with Canadian Brass several years ago, and he said, sure. And I just thought, that's just something he's just saying just to be nice. And that became my answer to everybody who was calling, and I was really touched by the amount of many players and colleagues around this country and world who had called to give me hope and tell me that they were thinking about me, sending their thoughts and prayers and good wishes. And that really, I think, was the most powerful thing, even beyond any of the medicines and chemos they were giving me. And so that was my response. When I get better, let's share the stage one more time. And everybody said, yes, absolutely. So it was one night I was talking to my wife and said, wouldn't it be amazing if we could actually do this at the same time, or try to record it and do something? And she chuckled and said, yeah, and you can call it Cancer Blows. And so that's how the name came. And I thought, that's brilliant. And so as I came out of it and was talking to everybody, letting them know that I came through the transplant fine, I'm getting better and getting stronger, I sort of reminded them of their promise, and everybody said absolutely. And we found a date, which is pretty amazing for that many people, that we could all make it. And so here we are, about a year and a half later, and in 2 weeks we'll be having, actually it's 2 evenings, and some of the greatest trumpet players are all going to be coming together, and we're going to be performing a big concert called Cancer Blows, and to bring awareness to multiple myeloma and raise funds for cancer research with the emphasis on blood cancers. And it's been taken off. So we started our own foundation, the Ryan Anthony Foundation, and so that's sort of been our big thing, my wife and I, is the last year or two, is getting that started and getting that going and getting it up and running and legal. And so here we are, and that's kind of been the main force. And I think this is something that's going to be leaving its mark. People are going to realize, and we are recording it for CD and DVD. It looks like we'll be able to stream it live on the web, so those details will be coming out soon. And working on a PBS television special and just trying to do as much as we can. And like I said, I think music is the perfect vehicle to bring people together. And so these concerts, Dallas Symphony Orchestra, members of it, will be performing on the first half. The UNT 1 o'clock lab band will be performing their big band on the second half as the host ensembles. And we've got everybody from Doc Severinsen, Arturo Sandoval, Lee Lockname from the band Chicago, and then, of course, Jens, Ronnie, Joe, and I will have a little Canadian brass reunion, and we've also got Alan Vizzuti and Vince DiMartino, Marvin Stan, Chris Chowdis, Wycliffe Gordon, Phil Smith is coming in. We also have Chris Martin, Mike Sachs, David Krause, Mark Gould, you name it. There's about 24 players all coming in, ranging from principal trumpets of major orchestras, top classical soloists, pop stars, and jazz artists. So and they're all coming together. I don't think this has ever been done or attempted, and maybe it shouldn't. But to have everything all on one stage to do so many different styles. But to me, that's what music is. And Cancer is not selective of who it chooses. It hits everybody. So that's what we're going to represent. All ages, all styles of music, and for one cause. And let's find a cure and beat this battle.
Wow. Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff. Yeah, I'll never forget. We were on the road somewhere. I have no idea where. And we were in it was before the show. And I think it was Jose, who's also going to be down there.
Yeah, he'll be playing.
Yep. Jose Sabaha, who saw something, whether it was on Facebook or got an email or whatever, about how you had been diagnosed, and I remember he like looked really upset, and then like more upset than you usually get, and then he kind of announced what he'd read, and the dressing room was quite quiet. So yeah, intense stuff. I can't imagine being on your end of it. So it's I would love to point out that a lot of people have gotten sick over the years, obviously, and not as many people are as selfless as you. That, I mean, obviously you fought the thing first, but then you immediately started thinking about your legacy and not musical. Like, you started a foundation and you planning this event and all that. That's pretty incredible stuff.
Well, I appreciate it. I think I figure I can either be a victim of this or I can be part of the solution. And when you look at it that way, I'd much rather choose trying to be part of the solution of this. And I think it's just one of those. I've done a few speeches and interviews before, and I hadn't really thought of it, but I do believe everything happens for a reason, and I don't quite understand this one yet. But perhaps all the past and stuff we had just talked about, and all the contacts and experiences I had, it really, what it's doing now is giving me a chance to reach out to all those people. It's almost as if everything that's happened before was for this one moment, that I can go back, I can collect all these people that I've worked with, and be able to create this huge, push of great names, and not only just musicians, but just good people that want to make a difference. And I feel honored that I'm in a position where I can be able to draw on that, and I can be a catalyst to bring them together. And it's almost as if that's what my whole varied career, it's been such a weird one, whether it be in an orchestra or being on the road with Canadian brass. But now I think I know why. It's because of the amount of sheer different types of people in my life I've been able to meet. And so now I'm given a stage to be able to bring them all together. And I just feel like it's sort of an obligation. And I'd much rather be part of it, of finding that cure. And certainly, hopefully for this generation, but the ones to come forward. And like I said before, I think music is the perfect vehicle for it. And I'm given this opportunity, and I'm going to do the most of it, and hopefully we can do many of these to come. But I'm excited. And at some point after March 4th, I'm looking forward to being a trumpet player again. But I think this is a great use of my job here and the contacts I've had before, and just the great people coming in. That really says a lot to me. All these people are very busy. They all make money playing, and yet they're willing, when it comes down to it, to do something for a cause. And to me, I think that's just the best thing to give patients. And going around, when I'm seeing them, it's hope. As much as they put in our veins of medicines, it's without the hope, it doesn't matter what else is in our body. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Wow.
So how can people help? I mean, obviously, if we're near Dallas, we can try and get a ticket, but that's probably no mean task. But for those of us who don't live there, how can we help you, help the foundation, help the event?
Well, you can certainly get on cancerblows.com. That's our website. And if you can't get tickets, then you can certainly donate. There's ways of doing that there. 100% all proceeds are going straight to our beneficiaries for cancer research. So every dollar that comes in is going straight to the cause. And so you can go on cancerblows.com, and there's phone numbers there. There's also many links that can figure out ways that you'd be able to can help. Certainly right now it's also awareness, spreading the news, get on your social media, let everybody know about this concert. If we're able to do the live streaming, we're going to be doing a text giving during the show. And so whether you're in the hall or you're watching it, you'll be able to participate. Anything that you even text on your phone will come up into the hall on the screens, and you'll be able to make a pledge at that point too for the foundation. And so we will find as many ways as possible to take your money. But, we are a 501c3, so it is all tax deductible, and so that's something good to use. And but yeah, it's, please visit our website. That's the best thing anybody can do right now.
Yeah.
And get educated on what the cancers are and what we can do. The Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation has been unbelievable. They've nearly tripled the lifespan. They're rewriting the way cancer is done with the consortium of over 20 hospitals that are all working together collectively, combining their efforts to figure out how to be able to make this just chronic and no longer terminal. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's very exciting, and this concert really is it's more of a sort of a celebration too of where we've come from. 10 years ago this was a death sentence, having the diagnosis I had, and yet I stand here now in complete remission between relapses. So I want to celebrate that. I want people to know that their gifts are making a huge difference, and not just in my cancer, but in all cancers. I mean, there's so many now that are treatable and curable that we didn't have 10 years ago, and we can only imagine what's going to happen 10 years from now if we continue the financial support. So it's going to be a fun evening, and we'll celebrate where we've come and where we're going, and yet there'll still be a strong message of what needs to be done. And hopefully this will be the beginning of a real big push, combine medical and music together to continue this fight.
So yeah, again,
visit the website.
I was just about to say, cancerblows.com, and there is there's a donate button right on there, and they accept Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, and PayPal. And even if you're a poor student, you don't realize that even like $5 will make a big difference. If everybody who doesn't have much money gives something like $5, then it all helps.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody, and that's, I get the message. This is not about individuals. This is collectively people coming together, and that's what I'm wanting to show by this long list of artists. There's been concerts where you can get 2 or 3 people, but the whole point of this is that it's a group effort, and that's what needs to be done. And it doesn't matter what you can give. And on the show, whether you're playing in a quartet, trio, or solo, every person and every dollar means the same. And it's a collective issue. If everybody was to band together and just give whatever that they can, that's really what makes a difference, not only financially, but to myself and the patients, seeing the sheer numbers of people out there in support. And that's what gets you on the down days, is knowing that you're not alone. And to be able to see that type of response is what we're hoping for. And so certainly be able to do this, all product that comes from it, the CDs and DVDs, all of that too, everything will be going straight to the foundation. So please give now to help us put this concert together and get the big push. And then certainly as the product come out, just keep supporting it and spreading the news. And that's how we're going to change the future.
Whoa, we got some loud feedback all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's what Henry just said too.
Like super loud feedback.
I don't know. Still there?
Yep.
It's me.
Yeah,
I'm here. I just figured one of you started warming up.
Hey, man,
awesome.
wait a minute. With that line, actually, I think we're going to keep that in there now. We were going to edit that out, but that was so funny that now we're just going to keep it in there. There you go. So we went from busting on Jens's chops to segueing to the most serious subject that anyone could ever discuss to then low brass jokes. So that's kind of how we do things around here. So
Well, ultimately it always gets back to low brass jokes.
there is a lesson there. So, well, I think that I can speak for anybody who is going to listen to this podcast once we post this that if that if any of us ever face the situation that you did and continue to face, and if we could. If our reaction could have even a sliver of the dignity and positivity that you have brought to the table, and immediately looking for a solution for yourself and your family and for others, then I think we'd all be pretty proud. It's pretty incredible stuff. So you're an impressive human being, Ryan Anthony.
Well, I appreciate it, and I think there's a lot of days that I wasn't for comments like that, and knowing that there are people supporting it. I mean, that's what I think gives me the strength and, keeps the path clear of what needs to be done and where I need to go. So it should be me actually thanking you for this and that support, because that ultimately is what's making the difference for me. And I also want to mention too, we do have a Facebook page and Twitter, and so any way you want information on Cancer Blows, it's up there. And certainly in the next few weeks, if we have further details with any live streaming or televised, anything where you can be able to watch, we'll have that posted. So I do want to bring that up as well.
Yeah, the Twitter handle is at Cancer Blows 2015 is the Twitter handle, which you can follow there, and the Facebook page is if you just search Cancer Blows, that is the first thing that pops up. So. Yeah, fantastic. So, we need you around for a very, very, very long time to be busting on Jens. So, yeah, that's
well,
what.
It really comes down to it. That is my goal. Yeah, that's really what's driving me through all of this. I can't let them off the hook that easy.
Yeah.
I mean, so to listen to the doctors that originally said I had a finite amount of time. That was my source of trying to prove them wrong.
That's okay.
I can continue to bust you in.
Hey, man, whatever it takes. We're not going to judge. So, whatever it
Exactly.
takes. Oh, that's great.
Well, I'm still waiting for the call to play Stan Kitten Christmas Gig.
Yeah.
So, other than that.
Well, now,
three of us.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now that Lance and I aren't in the band, we've totally got lots of pull. So, yeah, we'll. How about this? Lance and I can promise that the next person we hire for a Boston Brass Stan Kent gig will be you.
That's it.
So, yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Perfect. I'll put it on my calendar.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Don't call us. We'll call you.
Jens needs a wireless mic.
Yeah. Jens needs a wireless mic. Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. All right. So one last time, that is cancerblows.com, and you can click donate. You can look at all the artists. I'm sure there's going to be info on there about hopeful streaming of the event. There's an after party that you can schmooze with all of these players and ask them all how you play high notes, which I'm sure they'll all love. If we could get everybody to go up and ask everyone over and over again, how do you play high notes?
What's your favorite mouthpiece?
And what's your favorite mouthpiece? Exactly.
Yeah,
so.
And ask Jens if you can touch his jacket. I'm sure he'll have something special.
Oh, man. Yeah, actually.
No, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we've actually got, if you are around the Dallas area, there's other events. That Monday night is with all the principals from the orchestras, and it's going to be a much more informal, fun event, basically a live recording session, but there's going to be a Q&A panel discussion before that with everybody. There's going to be master classes on Tuesday. Basically, everybody who's coming in is giving themselves, to be able to do as much stuff. So we're trying to make this educational as well. You'd hate to have this many great artists and not be able to have students take advantage of it too. So If you're around the Dallas area, please, go online, check out all the things going on, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it, and I'm looking forward to not only the event, but to see what comes from it.
Well, and I love your tagline, music equals hope. That's good stuff.
That's it. Yeah, that's what. That's our tagline that we're going with, and that's sort of my motto. And so we'll, as a musician, to get on stage, you're kind of an open book. So, that's it's my motto, and that's now what I'm going to be telling everybody else.
There you go. We just count rests on stage, so we're not as open of a book, but we get paid to do it. So I guess the joke's on somebody other than us, right? So
yeah, exactly.
You're leading the brass section while we're just counting. Yeah, so it works.
Yeah. Well, what you're paid per note is a lot higher, so I'd actually be nervous. I mean, that's an expensive one.
A tuba mouthpiece is big enough it massages your face, though. You're talking about, like getting, it's like, and tubas are only expected to play in one style. It's the style of tuba, so that also helps. Slightly behind the beat, labored, it works. So
it's perfect.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. I think we've taken enough of your time since you're trying to put together a huge event and be a father and be a principal trumpet player in an orchestra and a soloist and a charitable foundation head. And other than that, it doesn't sound like you have much on your plate.
No. I'm trying to figure out what the next hobby might be. Actually,
Jens is calling.
Yeah, Jens is calling. Yeah,
exactly. He probably is. No, but things are going well, and I just had Friday was my last infusion. I go in for a maintenance chemo every 2 weeks, and this one I don't usually have any many side effects, but this weekend was a tough one. But we were doing Heldenleben, so there's a few notes in there, and this weekend was sort of those where I got to just pick myself up and realize, okay, it doesn't matter. Get out of bed, go and play, and make a difference. The audience doesn't care; they don't know what's going on, and it was a very nice, eye-opening weekend again to remind me what this is all about. And so I appreciate your support and all of you guys being behind it and helping me out with letting people know about this. And I just think it's going to be the most fun actually is going to be probably backstage. Unfortunately, not everyone's going to be able to see that, but it's I'm looking forward to it, and I'm very touched by it. And I know it's not just for me; it's for all the patients out there, and for them to see that this is what's going on. Whether they understand what's happening musically or not, they certainly can understand by watching these people coming together. So I can't wait.
Well, let's talk again in a couple of months, and then sort of unpack it and how it all went and what's next.
You got it.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. All right, thank you so much, Ryan.
Have a great day.
All right,
man.
You. Yep.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
All right.
Bye.
Later.
You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to help support the podcast in order to make more episodes like this one possible, please visit pedalnotemedia.com/donate for more details. Also, be sure to check out our latest recording, The Brass Recording Project, at brassrecordingproject.com. The Brass Junkies is produced by Hank Attaway, Austin Boyer, and Buddy Deschler of the Fredericksburg Brass Institute. Executive producers are Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.